The 2012 adaptation of Anna Karenina was directed by Joe Wright, director of Atonement and Pride and Prejudice, and all three starring Keira Knightley. The 2012 version represents itself as more of a technical showcase, with occasional and beautiful outdoor cinematography, as well as immaculate costume design, which won an award that year. While I can praise the attempts to make this adaptation original with its focus on stage construction, I can also critique the film for its approach to the novel, as I suppose all Karenina adaptations can. The film, unlike the novel, casts the majority of its screen time on Anna Karenina herself. Played by Knightley, her version of Anna is restless and lonely from the start, having to maneuver through life with her passionless and methodical husband, Alexei Karenin, played by Jude Law. What is more impressive about the film is less the storytelling than the technicalities of the production. With a budget of around $40 million, slightly above average, but far below the median, the makers of the film decided to keep quite a lot of the film cloistered onto a stage, recalling that famous line from Shakespeare about all the world being a stage. For the first half of the film, this thesis is rendered exquisitely, with characters far up in the rafters when it is actually Levin walking through the cold streets to find his alcoholic brother. The best places for this are the transitions between these scenes, where the set playfully manages to have characters interact with one another in new and creative ways. Unfortunately, the film does not stay consistent with this, likely because the entire novel does not simply take place in Moscow and St. Petersburg. When we leave for the train station, or to Levin's estate in the country, we are effectively leaving the stage. This might have been intentional, as a way to contrast between the urban and rural lives as Tolstoy did. Yet I must admit that I would have been curious to have seen the entire film done this way, with as close attention to editing and transitions as in the first half. That being said, there are plenty of other choices to remark upon in the novel. Much of the image has this soft glow, giving the film a dreamlike atmosphere. Each actor plays their roles admirably, though I did feel as though Kelly MacDonald was miscast as Dolly, who I pictured as being far more forward and angry, rather than doleful and meekly disquieted. Many of the side plots of the novel are shorn away and full attention is paid to Anna's affair, as well as Levin's love. As a result, certain plot lines from the novel are smoothed over. This has the unintended consequence of changing the tone of the film towards positivity and away from skepticism. Though Knightley attempts to infuse Anna's paranoia early on, particularly with Vronsky in the forest scene, the film descends into psychosis perhaps too quickly. Oblonsky and Dolly's plotline, as the family in the ashes of numerous affairs, is almost entirely cut, while Levin and Kitty's early marriage is projected as angelic. For these emendations and technical choices, I am giving Coherence a 3 out of 5. The film sacrifices all intellectual points for mood and feeling. Even in headier, more intellectual moments, such as when Levin finds great joy in mowing, it is given over to Levin's loneliness and desire for companionship instead. Criticisms of the industrial time period of Karl Marx is reduced and to quippy one-liners between emotional outbursts of society. What replaces and bolsters the film is spectacle and society itself. The lavish wealth, coupled with the desire for release from a bottled Anna, render the choice for an affair paradoxically desirable. Though Anna's child, Saryosha, appears throughout as a symbol of her motherhood, and as such her ties to her marriage with Karenin under God, Karenin's eventual forgiveness clashes with the way society judges Anna at a performance later in the film, suggesting that affairs could and should be done were it not for the watchful eyes of society. This might be why Dolly and Oblonsky's storyline is muted, though Dolly looks up to Anna with such praise even later in the film, that it suggests some kind of handoff to the viewer. Go on then, have your affair. The film also neuters the relationship between Levin and Kitty, turning many of the traumatic circumstances and tedious problems of early romance into such squeamish happiness that the two feel like children playing house. Placing the two narratives side by side in the film connote two equally available options. Anna's fall from grace is a little too short too late, not to mention that Anna as a character is rife with so much ambiguity from the novel that we have a sort of chicken and egg problem between whether Anna's mental health problems came first or her affair. Instead of making powerful insights into the nature of love and marriage while embedded in society, the 2012 film, ultimately stays high and light with image and embroidery. To be fair, this decision makes the film exquisite, as the balls, the costumes, the dancing, and all the shots that compose it produce a film that is stunning to look at. The score by Dario Marianelli is evocative and shows the close work between him and Joe Wright across their films together. The upswell of music, in particular of Anna's demise and the final shots of Anna in the train station, produced an emotional response from me, despite thinking that the film had not earned the intellectual component. However, it should be noted that, even at the end, the film would not tarnish Knightley's beautiful face. For its willingness to be beautiful, but its unwillingness to be ugly, a 3 out of 5 seems apt. Though the Tolstoy novel is brimming with possible ambiguities between the three major relationships, careful attention seems to have been paid to strip down the relationships to such an extent that they effectively changed the reading of the story itself. Dolly and Oblonsky have quite a lot to add to the story, not only being the first couple to face adversity, and the first couple we encounter on screen, but also that they have dealt with affairs quite differently to Anna and present a foil. It is in the early chapters, contrasting the two, that the Anna Karenina novel is strongest. The film does make strides to address this complexity, such as when Levin sits at dinner with many of the main characters and addresses his very youthful and pure idealization of marriage, to the happiness of Kitty and to the wariness of Oblonsky, and a shot of his downturned face accentuates this. So we can acknowledge that the film has an understanding of the tension between the couples, and yet the movie seems extremely unwilling to stay in that space for too long. Levin and Kitty's conflicts with one another in early marriage are totally ignored, instead replaced with idyllic close-up shots of Kitty caring for Levin's brother, despite its interpersonal problems. Instead of the multiple stages of grief Dolly has for the deteriorating state of her marriage, what we have instead is unbridled praise and acceptance of Anna's affair. There are some brief shots highlighting the frisson between Kitty and Anna over the way Anna stole Vronsky's affections at what is effectively Kitty's debut, but there is little discussion about what implications this might have between the two women, or with Vronsky's character. When characters make larger changes in their lives, such as when Vronsky goes from painting playboy to landholder, little time is given over to how this affects the paradigm, saving perhaps to isolate Anna even more. I do understand that, given all these lost details, the movie might have ballooned to over 3 hours. Yet I think there is a great deal of tension and conflict in the novel that goes unmentioned or waved over in the film. In my mind, Anna Karenina is a fairly bleak story, one that addresses the changeover of marriage into the modern sensibilities of wanting someone who can be not only our secure partner in financial stability, but also be exciting, spontaneous, and erotic. What we end up with in the film is the ends of the two spectrums, with Kitty preferring stability and Anna risking passion at all costs. The complex middle, then, has been ripped out. For lacking complexity, the film gets a 2 out of 5 for me as a result. In terms of originality, we have a real problem. The 2012 film stands alongside over 15 other films, and that is not to mention ones handled in television and in performance. Of course, because of the gaudiness of the novel, each adaptation is plagued with the near impossible task of congealing the thing into something watchable, with thematic arcs and character progression. Joe Wright's 2012 adaptation reeks with the kind of visual uplift that many films of classic novels have taken to in recent years. Though it is not as bad as Disney's attempt to update their catalog with live-action accounts, it still feels eerily like a glossy version in the same way. Though Knightley has been the top candidate for classic works of my generation, here Knightley has less to go on in the enigma that is Anna, and I am sure other actresses have done far better in the past. Matthew Macfadyen is the standout role as the fraternal and oblivious Oblonsky, while Domhnall Gleeson gives a contrasting stern and stoic Levin. Ruth Wilson's portrayal of Betsy surprised me greatly, with a poisonous bite that the film desperately needed more of. While there is something to be said for the technical approach to the film, it does not last, and feels more like an expedient attempt to manage a budget, more than it does as a way to lean into the idea to create something new. For all of these critiques, a 1 out of 5 for originality seems right. A total score of 2.25 out of 5 reveals a film that is so beautiful that it lost its message as a result. This is most egregious with Jude Law's Karenin, who so encapsulates the problems of being unable to avoid having a charismatic actor like Jude Law play such a loathsome character. At rock bottom, he is just too attractive. That is really the issue. I think the movie would be great for a book club after having finished the novel, but I think this would be a starting place for adaptations, and never the end. Thanks for watching.